Hello guys, this is going to be a very short video where we will talk about relative velocity, a concept where you have one object moving and then another object moving, and they're either moving towards each other or away from each other. We will discuss how to find relative velocity, and we will also do one practice problem so you know how the formulas and concepts we learn about in class apply to problem solving. Let's start firstly by talking what is relative velocity. Relative velocity is a measure of the velocity of one object as observed from another moving object. How do we find relative velocity? We can have really only two scenarios. One, where two objects are moving in the same direction. Let's say one is moving with velocity 10 meters per second and another one with the velocity of 5 meters per second. Now, what would be their total velocity? Notice that, let's say this guy, for example, is chasing this one. So he's moving with a faster velocity of 10 meters per second, and this one moved with a slower velocity of 5 meters per second. So 5 meters per second of his velocity, half of this, is going to go to just move at the same velocity. And then 5 meters, these extra 5 meters, are what's actually going to be used in order to get closer and closer and closer. Therefore, when two objects are moving in the same direction, we have to subtract them from each other to be 5 meters per second. Versus, what if they're moving in the opposite direction? Now here, if this is 10 meters per second and 5 meters per second, the overall velocity, the relative velocity at which they're moving away from each other would be 10 plus 5. Because let's say if this one wasn't moving, the relative velocity would be just 10 meters per second, but they're moving even faster further apart because one is moving at 10 and one is moving at 5. To conclude, if it's in the same direction, we subtract. If it's in the opposite direction, we add the two velocities together. Now, let's see how this concept applies to one of our practice problems. Here we have two cars, car A and B, that are driving on a straight highway. Car A is moving east. Car A is moving east with a velocity of 60 kilometers per hour. Car B is moving west at a velocity of 80 kilometers per hour. Firstly, what is the relative velocity of car A with respect to car B? So I want you to think, do we add the two velocities here or do we subtract them? If you remember from the previous page, if they're moving in the opposite directions, we're going to add these two velocities together, VA plus VB. 60 plus 80 is going to be 140 kilometers an hour. Finally, what would be the distance between two of them if they traveled at the same direction after 3 hours? Sorry, what is the distance between them after 3 hours? Now, we can simply use the formula distance is equal to velocity times time. And the velocity we're going to be using here is this velocity that we just calculated, 140 kilometers an hour. Therefore, distance is equal to velocity times time, or 140 times 3 hours, which is equal to 420 kilometers. Perfect. Any questions? Finally, let's talk about what if they traveled in the same direction. What would be the distance between them? If they traveled in the same direction, let's say they started from the same position and they traveled in the same direction. First of all, what would be the relative velocity? In this case, when they travel in the same direction, we subtract the two velocities from each other. The relative velocity would become 20 kilometers an hour. And after 3 hours, it's going to be 20 times 3 or 60 kilometers. Great. Now that you know how to solve the relative velocities problems, you can practice these problems on your own. Thank you guys for watching. Keep watching these videos and keep practicing on your way to an A. Have a good day.